So, hello everybody. Welcome to an introduction to transpersonal energy healing. And it's so exciting to see all of you here, to see some new faces and familiar faces and faces I haven't seen in a very long time faces. And it's always such a privilege to have the honor to share with you what we are so passionate about ourselves in this topic, because of the power of what we have seen and what we continue to see it do to help people change their lives, transform their lives, improve their lives and their relationships and their own healing. So I would love us to just start by maybe doing a minute or so of just grounding, getting in our bodies and doing a little bit of grounding. So if we could all just stand up for a minute, wherever you are, just stand up and just kind of walk in place. But I want you to bend your knees as you do that and walk with heavy feet. So you might be able to hear me stomping my feet on the ground, but I want you to do that. Bend your knees more deeply. You can let your arms swing. Take some breaths. Most of us do so much sitting all day long that we want to just land in our bodies for a minute. And now we're going to add to that. While you're walking and stomping in place, I want you to tap your head, breathe, tap some sense into that head, touch your cheeks, tap your chest, do a little Tarzan action there, a little you can make some sound while you do that. Tap down your arm, look at your arm, wake it up, flip it over, tap the other side, get your armpit, around the breast, tap up the other arm, flip it over, get the armpits, tap your belly, wake it up, your kidneys, make some loose open fists and tap your kidneys, get your butt, wake that up, go down the legs, tap down one leg, and up the back of the leg, then down the other leg, and just shake it off. Let some sound out, let the stress of the day out. Wipe it off, shake it off. Great. Now go ahead and have a seat and just close your eyes. We're going to do a 1 minute, 60-second transitional meditation. So close your eyes. Just forget everybody and everything else for a minute. Plant your feet flat on the floor. Take a couple deep breaths. Put your hands right over your heart center, on the center of your chest, right over your heart center. And breathe into your heart area. Breathe some energy and awareness into your heart. And all day long, whatever you've been doing, however you've been interacting with other people or by yourself, just take this minute to drop inside now. Deepen your breathing. And connect to your intention for being here with us tonight, whatever it might be. Maybe it's for inspiration, education, motivation, seeking healing for yourself, seeking healing for someone else. Whatever it might be, whether it's conscious or not, or it's subconscious, just know that there is an intention. There's a reason you are here. It's not an accident. Whether that is a conscious intention or a deeper subconscious feeling, just connect to that for a moment in yourself. And let yourself land here. And now, when you're ready, go ahead and open your eyes. And I'd like you just to take a minute to look at all the faces in the room. We've got 2 pages here now with us. If you want to be on camera, go ahead and turn your camera on for a moment and look at who you're just on this journey with tonight. And just sort of say hello. See the like-minded travelers who are with you on this journey tonight. You're not alone. You're with people who share your interests, your seeking, your inspiration. Look at the beauty and the warmth in the room. So thank you for sharing yourselves for a moment with everyone. So I want to take just a minute to introduce Kimberly, the co-founder of Transpersonal Energy Healing Therapy. Wave at us, Kimberly, so they can find you if they don't know you yet. And then we have some of our teaching staff here, Jan Chamberlain, who is our movement specialist. Thank you, Jan. And we have some of our staff, Emily, who is our, if you email us at support@TEH, you're going to get Emily's lovely response and shining face behind the scenes. And then we have Hera's here with us, Michelle's here with us, wave at us, so and Mary Linda and Lynn, our teaching interns are here with us. So, and Michelle, thank you everybody and for being here with us today. So I want to use every precious moment we have, so I want to dive right in. I'm going to go to a screen share. And while I'm doing that, if you would like to put in the chat your purpose for being here, if you want to say something like that in the chat to share, please feel free. And I am going to go to our slideshow. And here we are, Transpersonal Energy Healing. And I want to start out with a story about a client who came to me a number of years ago, who came because she had cancer. She was had a cancer diagnosis. And when she first came to work with me, she was a drinker, a smoker, and a sugar addict. And she was deteriorating pretty rapidly, and she was afraid to die, but she was also avidly working on all these bad habits to kill herself. And having a really hard time knowing that she didn't want to be doing this, but at the same time didn't seem to have the ability to quite stop herself yet. So when we started to work with her situation, and we looked a little bit closer at what was when we got to the underlying cause of what these behaviors were in response to, and she told me a little bit about her history growing up. And the feelings that she had in her body, the sensations that she had in her body of always wanting to run. She had this tension, this energy tension of always wanting to bolt and run away. And what we came to find out was that feeling sensation reminded her of this feeling that she used to have as a child every time her father would go away on a business trip, which was frequently. And when he would go away on a business trip, she'd be left with her very critical alcoholic mother. And when that would happen, she had this terrible guilt and shame that it was all her fault. And her mother would blame her also. So with all those factors combined, she had this terror of abandonment that was still in her. And so what happened was, when we started to get to the bottom of that sensation, she had this realization that she loved her husband, but she was terrified that he would leave her because she became too much of a burden in her illness. And so she was going to die so that he wouldn't leave her. And it was sort of like a catch-22 for her. And when we got to the bottom of that, she was able to give up smoking, give up drinking, and give up sugar. And it was truly remarkable turnaround that happened when that epiphany happened for her. So this is kind of what I want to share with you about the potency of transpersonal energy healing. So what is it exactly? It is a cutting-edge system that takes you to the core of an issue quickly and authentically, unwinding limiting deep-seated subconscious patterns rooted in stress or trauma. And okay, so there we go. And so how can we help? Well, healing subconscious energy patterns allows you to take charge of your life force so you can heal your body, mind, and spirit. And we are committed to supporting you on your healing journey. That is what our work is all about. So what is every soul seeking on their healing journey? Well, we really all want kind of one thing. We want what we call in TEH therapy our essential self. We know that we have this great potential that we're not fully living up to. And we want to be of service with that potential. It's innate in our humanness. Why? So we can be happy. And if you think about it, most of us, when we do something, we want to be happy for ourselves, right? We want to have our own experience of happiness. But I don't know about you, but I think for so many people, we feel even more happiness when we make someone else happy, when we're of service to someone else. There's like somehow the gratification of that is even stronger than our own level of fulfillment. So innately in us, we want to be of service, whether it's to people, whether it's to animals, whether it's to children, whether it's to plants. There's just something innate in us that wants to serve others. So what blocks us from our essential self? Well, this was supposed to be numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4, but we'll have 4 number ones instead. What blocks us is just lack of knowledge. We don't know how. Who taught us how to do this in school? Not me. I might have learned my multiplication tables, but I didn't learn how to be happy. In fact, I learned pretty much how to hide any kind of happiness that I had. What blocks our essential self? Conscious or subconscious energy patterns, which we're going to talk, which happened when this example that I gave of this woman who developed cancer. Sometimes we create an energy pattern, most often we create an energy pattern to take care of ourselves in some way that we learned to cope with the shame or the tension or the limitations of our home life growing up. So in the case study example that I told you about, this woman, Lou, she could not show her love of her father. Her mother would get jealous. She could not fully express her self, her emotional self in any kind of safe way. So she learned how to hide that, how to cover it up, and how to be compliant. So, and that being compliant as an adult for her turned into self-sabotage, because the minute she would start to really feel her full aliveness, she felt like she would get in trouble. And so all that life force had to get tucked away, locked away, repressed, suppressed, and turned into tension that developed into cancer. So it turns into self-sabotage of some sort, or we lack the support that we need to be able to. We might know what action steps might need to be taken, but we lack the support, the emotional support to do it. So the missing link in so much of this is transpersonal energy healing therapy, the roadmap for recovery of our essential self. So there's another little story I want to tell you really quickly about a man named Larry LeShen. He's a famous psychologist. He wrote a book called Cancer as a Turning Point. And in that book, he tells a story about when he was working with cancer patients, doing psychotherapy for them in the 80s, back when cancer was a death sentence. There were no cures for cancer. If you got cancer, you were going to die. And so he got so depressed in working with these people. He would get bonded with them, attached to them, and he got so depressed in his work that he took a sabbatical for 6 months. And he went off to some Greek island to sort of recover himself. And when he was on that island, he saw these 2 young teenage girls just playing delightfully, having a great time. And he had this epiphany watching them, and he realized that all this time I've been looking at what is wrong with these people instead of what is right with them. And so in that epiphany, he started to try to find out what made his clients, his patients, feel alive. And when he started to do that, it triggered an immune response in their system, and 50% of his patients started to recover, which was back then unheard of. So we learned defensive reactivity habits. Learned defensive reactivity habits block our awareness of our essential self, block our awareness of that self-correcting healing mechanism that we have, of that aliveness. we subconsciously distort and adapt our energy charge to manage uncomfortable, emotionally alive sensations that were not okay to feel for whatever reason when we were young, oftentimes when we were young growing up. So what is subconscious survival reactivity? It's avoidance of the energy charge of an emotional feeling sensation. So not just an emotion, but the feeling sensation that underlies the emotion, which is tied into our aliveness, which triggers that immune response in our physiology, which Kimberly will tell us more about in just a minute. Oops, I want to go back to this. This got a little screwy and spacing, but that's okay. Why do I avoid emotionally charged sensations? There is a positive reason that I engage in negatively charged destructive patterns, and it's not because I'm stupid or lazy. It's because I'm seeking emotional comfort and safety. I am seeking emotional comfort and safety. So what exactly is an energy charge? It's consciousness having a really genuine experience in our physiology. For those of you who have experienced acupuncture, for example, and you feel, when you experience acupuncture, you feel that tingling sensation of those needles. Well, in energy healing work, a very similar thing happens. You're going to feel energy coursing through, pulsing through, blocks unwinding in our physiology as the chakras open, as consciousness comes into movement. As the subconscious mind becomes conscious, then the energy starts to go into movement, and we have a very palpable experience of that sensation. So how and why did my self-sabotaging habit originates? So here's an example, right? Self-sabotaging patterns that create suffering now were often originally formed in childhood to help us manage overwhelm when we were too young to have other skills available. So you see this little boy, he probably can't be more than 5 years old, and his little brother here, who maybe is 2, who's a toddler, he's making dinner. He's way too young to be standing on this stool making dinner for his little brother, but mom is over here passed out drunk on the couch. So he had to grow up way too fast, take on way too much responsibility, way too soon. He had to feel alone in this overly responsible state of his being to become, to be able to survive, and to have to take care of his little brother as well. So what happened when he grows up to be an adult? He learns that those survival patterns that he had to manufacture and find within himself at 5 years old, he had to hold it all up. He had to bring all that energy up. All that energy of his aliveness and his charge came up into his upper body, out of his lower body, which feels weak by comparison. And he has this strong charge around his head, around his upper body. And he created a survival energy pattern that is held in place with chronic muscular tension to block and manage the terrible vulnerability that he feels in his lower body. All of his energy had to come up, and he holds his charge in his upper body. And we then form thought patterns to make sense out of this physiological feeling. And the physiological feeling is, I'm alone, I have to do it on my own, I don't have any help, there's nobody I can trust. And these are the patterns that describe what you learned to do, but they are not who you are. So you might think, when you become this adult who is so charged up here that you find yourself yelling at your kids or doing road rage or yelling at your employees, then, we in ourselves, we know we feel terrible after we do those behaviors, but we're holding so much charge up here that it's the only way we know how to dispel it and discharge it. And it's way too unsafe feeling to track and hear and feel our true vulnerability, to feel our true needs. So here's the gold nugget. These thought patterns are based in the subconscious mind and neurologically imprinted in the brain with specific sensations that keep us recycling the energy of unprocessed emotions. So these emotions are now expressed in unhealthy reactive behaviors, because this is the person who maybe grows up into their adult life, has a really hard time with intimacy, has a really hard time feeling safe and vulnerable to express their vulnerable emotions with another person, that they won't be there, that they won't be reliable, that they will be like the mother who was passed out on the couch, not there for them. And so this is just one example of what can happen when we don't process these emotional experiences that are still alive in our physiology. So let's look at what happens next. Why is this important? Because these patterns inhibit our true essential self from fully showing up. So for example, I have a former client who is a CEO of a company who cannot control her temper. And she frequently belittles and yells at her employees. Her employees are afraid of her. And so she has a turnover all the time. She knows this about herself. She's really trying to reel it in. It's really hard for her because she's fighting against these subconscious patterns that keep showing up. The good news is there is a way to get to the core of those patterns and to begin to heal and change them. Our inner critic voices seem to define our personality, but these messages of our inner critic are beliefs that help us rationalize subconscious sensations married with messages that say, I am unsafe, which is no longer true in present time. So wherever we feel reactive in a relationship, especially in our intimate relationships, wherever we feel triggered by that other person becomes the yellow brick road to information that lives in our subconscious mind about our patterns that are still unresolved. So I'm going to hand it over to Kimberly now, who's going to take us through this next segment on the science behind it.
Thank you, Laura. You described so well how what can happen subconsciously most often is that we tie the sensations in our body to the story from a past scenario that's no longer true in the present moment, but we are responding as if it was happening in the present moment. And that's because we're wired to stay safe above all other things. Our systems are wired to be on the lookout for safety and danger all of the time, 24/7. We have the need to feel safe in our environment. It's our external safety. We have the need to feel safe in our bodies, our internal safety, and we have the need to feel safe in connection or in relationship with other people. So everything follows safety for human beings. Processes like digestion, immune system, fighting off disease and bacteria and infections, and even reproduction always come second to safety. And that's important. That's a good thing. The problem comes from when the sensations of being unsafe are tied to stories from when we were younger that causes inappropriate or unhealthy reaction in the present moment. So this all starts in our autonomic nervous system. Our bodies have this built-in system that detects the safety or danger within the autonomic nervous system first, because it captures these cues from the body and from the environment. So it notices cues from inside the body if something's not right or well, and from outside of the body if something is not safe. And what then happens is our body creates physiology to help us survive or respond to the potential danger. So this survival physiology actually starts to send signals to our body before we can even engage with our higher brain thinking or our cognitive thinking, our reasoning thinking doesn't even come on board until after that survival physiology kicks in. Next slide, please. So this survival physiology creates electrical, chemical, and hormonal signals that then in turn create these sensations in the body that we associate with danger. So again, that danger can be outside of the environment, inside of our bodies, or danger in a relationship with another person. The survival physiology is important, and it does create these electrical, chemical, and hormonal signals that we then can associate with danger because of the sensations that come along from these electrical, chemical, or emotional signals. So the sensations build in the body, and then here's where trouble can happen. These sensations build, and we start to make meaning of the situation. And then we create stories about the situation, and the stories become beliefs that shape our life. It shapes how we think, how we feel, and how we behave. And Laura summed it up, I think, really nicely in her explanation of the client that she had that started creating all of this negative thinking and all of this inner critic thinking. And it created her personality, how we think, how we feel, and we behave. Often these beliefs that we create live below the surface of our awareness. They live in our subconscious mind. And these beliefs really can limit our healing and our happiness because it keeps us from feeling and being in touch with our essential self. So truly, your body is your subconscious minds. Your thoughts, your conscious and your subconscious or unconscious thoughts literally cause biochemical reactions in your brain and your body that release these energetic, chemical, and emotional signals so that you can respond, so that you can defend yourself. And all of these sensations build in the system. As they build, they become emotions. An emotion is an idea in the mind married with that physical sensation in the body. That's why we call it a feeling. So one of my favorite scientists of all time, really kind of the mother of the body-mind medicine trend that started back in the 1980s, is Candace Pert. She wrote a book called Molecules of Emotion, The Science Behind the Mind-Body Medicine. And she says that when emotions are expressed, all systems are united and made whole. When emotions are repressed, denied, not allowed to be whatever they may be, our network pathways get blocked, stopping the flow of the vital, feel-good, unifying chemicals that run both our our biology or physiology and our behavior. So really, she could show that we are wired for happiness, health, and bliss. We have these chemicals and the molecules of really positive emotions. And we have molecules to help us stay safe, to survive. But what we can do is we can learn how to work with this physiology of survival and the physiology of our emotions so that it doesn't get blocked and it doesn't block our connection to our essential self. Next slide, please. Survival physiology and the corresponding emotions are not problematic. They're actually very healthy when we have completion of the following processes. The physiology of survival should be short-term, and emotions are meant to be experienced and expressed. So if we have resolution of a threat or a dangerous situation, if we have conscious awareness of our experience, our thoughts, emotions, and the sensations associated with that, and we have the full expression of our emotion, which is including the feeling of it, reaching a peak of the feeling, and allowing a discharge or expression of the emotion, then we don't suffer. We don't suffer. We lose access to our essential self if we don't get to fully express and discharge our emotions. We get stuck in self-sabotaging behaviors, and our physical and our mental health decline. But the good news is we have a solution to this. So Laura's going to talk to you more about that.
Thank you, Kimberly. That was great. So, it's the amazing thing is that when we start to do this work and we start to feel these underlying sensations, this aliveness in our physiology, very often the first reaction to this tingling kind of energy that's moving through the body is for us to go, oh my God, this is what's happening. This is scary. And so often I've kind of joke with my clients and I'll just say, is there anything good about it at all? And they'll say, well, it kind of feels like an orgasm, when we start to relax the mind and know that nothing dangerous is happening now in their adult self, that this aliveness, this vibrancy that comes back into the physiology is actually the chakra system opening, the kundalini energy opening, the movement of that aliveness opening, the heart opens, the crown opens. I mean, it becomes, as Kimberly was saying, blissful, this blissful experience that is our true essential self starts to become more of our living experience. So Jan is going to take us from here, and Jan's going to talk to us about how this transmutes, and then we'll do a little something with it.
Hey, great. So one of the definitions of transmuting is to change in form or to evolve into something better, higher. And so we need to feel the energy in order to heal the energy, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. That is a law of the universe. It can only be transmuted. So one of the ways that we can do that in a very quick way, especially if we're so charged in the moment that we can't sit and meditate, we can't allow that objective observer to overcome the inner critic, is to move, to open the energy system, employ and enjoy movement. And this is a picture, of course, of me doing what makes me happy in an environment that makes me happy. That's my own home and garden. And I'll tell you something about these beautiful flowers behind me. They were given to me by friends who had the same flowers in their yard. They took cuttings off of those flowers and transmuted them, in a sense, into my yard to share that beautiful energy. And movement has always been a key for me in opening the energy system. But I'll tell you something. Although I've worked in the health and fitness industry for over 40 years, I actually worked in college during the 1980s in the Nautilus fitness centers. They were the first gyms that opened with machines, if maybe some of you can remember those. But I've stayed active teaching yoga, aerobics, and movement classes since then. However, a few years ago, about 3 years ago, I ended up suffering with debilitating back pain, lower back pain, and it was so bad that in the mornings when I would first wake up, I could barely move. So this was 3 years ago. I had completed my 200-hour yoga teaching certification. I began teaching college yoga classes, and I kept thinking, I'm doing yoga. My back should be feeling better, and it wasn't. So after spending all kinds of money on chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, craniosacral work, dry needling, ozone injections, etc., and some would help, but again, same thing. I decided the solution must be more yoga. So I enrolled in another 300 hours to become a 500-hour instructor, and still could not figure out what was going on. I was flexible. I could do all of the poses. Why was I in such pain on a daily basis? And along the journey, I discovered that many yoga teachers and other movement instructors who had practiced some of these traditional forms of yoga and movement that we did back in the 80s, 90s, the early 2000s, when movement was sort of evolving, ended up in their later years with double hip replacements and with spinal surgeries. And so I kept learning. I kept searching and I completed more certifications. This time I turned to functional movement, self-myofascial release techniques, pain-free for life was another certification I took, and of course, transpersonal energy healing therapy, which is what we're about tonight, and why I am loving being part of transpersonal energy healing therapy. So if we can go right here, I want to talk about how I've transformed my yoga and movement practice and subsequent teaching into flows using movements that open the energy system and that nurture, strengthen, and stabilized my joints and my ligaments, so that I can happily tell you, I just had my 61st birthday and I'm back to living pain-free once again. I feel better than I did in probably my 20s, actually, because I understand the right kind of movement, specific movements for my body, but also specific movements that open the energy systems to feel the energy. And we'll be actually giving you a free gift at the end of our workshop tonight. So hang in there. We have a little link for you to download this wonderful chakra chart with some of these movements on it, and we'll experience just a couple of them. So again, the key to healing the energy is feeling the energy, and we do this through charging our chakras. And what are chakras? Well, we're all on a journey. We take this journey through the vehicle of our body, and we can't drive a vehicle from the outside of a vehicle, right? We have to be in the driver's seat. So driving the vehicle requires not only consciousness and awareness, but also a constant and steady supply of energy. We have to be able to tap the energy appropriately, go faster when the coast is clear, slow down for some more difficult terrain. We want enough energy to get us to the next destination, a place where we can rest and recharge. And understanding how charge flows through the chakra system in our body, the chakras can be seen as a map for this journey. And this can help us better navigate life's twists and turns. It can help us better go where we want to go. So the chakras act like resistors and capacitors, speeding energy up or slowing it down, depending on what's needed or where we may have some blocked energy. Clearing and balancing our chakras keeps the gears of our vehicle moving as we shift from one mode to another. And as you can see, the chakras are little wheels of color. Here, chakra does mean wheel. In Sanskrit, they're aligned vertically along the energetic core of the body. You can think of them as spinning wheels of vital energy that also correlate to organ systems and organs in the body. It's an organizational structure for how the body handles its life force or charge. And each chakra handles a particular kind of energy. And the chakras also influence our experience of the physical body. So for example, we may have butterflies in the stomach, a frog in our throat, an ache in our back, etc. The chakras are energetic storage pouches as well. They can store our experiences, our memories, our habits, and our beliefs. And this can work in our favor and maybe not always in our favor. For instance, storing the memory of love can comfort us in difficult times versus storing the energy, the memory of anger that erupts suddenly when you don't want it to, just like Laura was talking about with one of her clients. So our chakras can have excessive energy, or they can have deficient energy as well. And so chakra balancing, a little tune-up, if you will, for each chakra to balance the charge and to get things spinning. And I like to think of them as gears. When we get one chakra spinning, it can't help but get all of the energy in our body aligned and in motion. So next slide. And we're back to that first law of thermodynamics. This is the law of conservation of energy, which states that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can only be moved, transferred, or changed. And we use the word transmute from one form to another. And my very favorite quote in learning from Laura, over these 8 years, I've been fortunate enough to have been learning from her. I met her 8 years ago as part of a health conference that I was helping with, and really have enjoyed learning from both Laura and Kimberly, as I know you are tonight. But Laura always says, the energy is smarter than we are. The energy is always smarter than we are. It wants to move, and it wants and needs to unwind, but in its own way. Our job is to get out of the way and to let it do just that. And sometimes the very quickest shortcut to doing that is to let our bodies move and let the energy move. So next slide, and we're going to have the first of our 2-minute chakra warm-ups. We're gonna have a little movement pause. So you can stand up, you can actually step away from the camera. You do not have to be on camera. You can if you like, but we are going to move. I'll step back so you can see me. We are going to move our hips. We're going to do some hip wiggles. That's right, hip wiggles. You can move slow and undulating if you like. This is the second chakra, the sacral chakra, transmuting the energy, and you can move faster if you like. You can hula, you can shake it, you can do the twist. Whatever feels good to you right now. You're transmuting this energy that lives in this chakra. Sometimes we hold shame and guilt. We will hold that type of energy in this chakra. Let's transmute that into creativity. This is also the chakra of creativity and pleasure. It's the chakra of flow and helping our days and our lives just flow. I love to see how everyone's moving just a little differently, those of you who are on camera. Releasing stuck energy and channeling it into new and joyful patterns of self-expression. Taking a moment just to move. Okay, and then let's just stop for a moment. If you're sitting down, just feel what's going through your body. Do you feel a little bit of a charge, maybe a little tingle? How does that feel? Feel the energy to heal the energy. One of the easiest ways to do that is to begin to move. Okay, next slide.
I'm here. I just had to fix something. Okay.
Hey, back one more. There we go. So this is Jean-Pierre Barral. He is a French, and he does some incredible body work. His quote, nature abhors a vacuum, but it fears immobility even more. Motion is a sign of life itself. And sometimes our first instinct is that freeze. We can go into freeze, fight, or flight response. But after we have the freeze and we're able to assess, are we safe? Then motion, movement, the power of that charge moving through our energy system helps us to create a new brain mapping, a new interpretation, a new neurology, using a different kind of brain mapping in our movements even to promote healing for the nervous system. So the way that we've been moving our whole lives has basically created our own mapping. We have a super highway in our brain, in our neurology. It's the one that we use the most. And those tend to be our habits. And so we can investigate how we're moving and if it's going to benefit us in the long term. And even though we have these super highways, we have what we call brain plasticity. We can change, we can choose. We are adults now. We have the ability to choose different pathways. This applies not only to our life, but also to behavior. We can choose a different way. And sometimes that different way might be challenging because it's not the familiar way. It is not the carved neural pathway that we have. But over time, it becomes a new superhighway for us as we adapt and as we heal. Okay. And this last one, we're going to do our second of our 2-minute chakra wake-ups. So here's another movement pause, but before we do this, I want you to be thinking, yeah, you can stand up, that's fine. We're going to be standing up. This is our opportunity to investigate the ways that we are moving now. They're helping us to feel the energy. Ways that we're habitually moving, also, that might not. Maybe we're habitually slumping. So that might not be helping us in the long run. So we want to ultimately raise our consciousness, awakening our consciousness, moving consciousness, and expanding our consciousness. So knowledge plus action equals power. And we are going to do a little 2-minute movement here that's called the jump for joy. And that's exactly what it is. And you're all on mute, so you can yell as loudly as you like. And you're going to go down into the ground. We're going to use the ground force energy to push us up and go, yay! 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 Woo! Yeah, jump for joy. How long has it been since you may have done something like this? Jump for joy. Waking up all of the chakras. Waking them up. Okay. And now in the stillness, let's just tune in to what we feel. Sometimes a tune-up in the form of movement, like we just did, a little hula, a little jump for joy, is precisely what we need to be able to do in order to tune in, to feel the energy in order to heal the energy. And now Laura will give us some ways to tune in.
Thank you so much, Jan. That was fun. So let's put these pieces together now. We had a little bit of introduction into knowing that the subconscious mind is where our patterns, our habits that are both healthy and unhealthy live in us, that we want to reclaim our true, full, essential self, our full aliveness, that we're stuck in some self-sabotaging, defensive behaviors that we know better. We should, I should do this, I should not do that, I should not eat that piece of cake, I should exercise more, I should not yell at my kids. We know all the shoulds and should nots, and we still feel compelled to do them anyway. Jan has sort of introduced the power of a movement to this. And now what we want to do is we want to take those pieces and put them together with the underlying emotional feeling that is stuck there, that we want to shift and change for ourselves, that we don't like about ourselves, but we find ourselves caught in this pattern of doing it anyway. And we don't even necessarily, again, know, why am I doing that? Why did I lose my temper again? Why did I, procrastinate that job interview again? Why did I, avoid, a decision making? Why did I, not answer the phone call of my best friend, even though I know she was really disappointed and waiting for me? So we're avoiding a feeling, an emotional feeling that lives in the subconscious mind. So I want you to think for a minute for yourself about something that you do, a pattern that you do that you might not like about yourself, whatever that pattern could be. And if you can't think of a pattern for yourself, then think about a person that triggers you, that you get reactive to, that annoys you or pisses you off, or you feel impatient around that person. And just think about the feeling that happens in your body when you think of that person and how they trigger you. And I want you to now try this with me. I'd like you to just let your hands begin to move in space in front of you. Just let your hands just kind of dance in front of you, in the space in front of you. And close your eyes and let your hands keep moving. And now let your hands keep moving just arbitrarily in the space, but faster. Let them go faster. Just fast, 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 fast. Let them go whatever way they want to go. And when I count to 3, your hands are going to go to the place in your body where you hold some unfinished energy, emotional energy business. 1, 2, 3. Let your hands go there. They know just where to go, even if it makes no sense to you. Now just feel that place in your body. And I want you to close your eyes, keep your eyes closed, and just breathe in and tune into what the cells of your body feel like under there. Feel the emotion that lives in there, that lives under there. There's a sensation. There's an emotion. even if you don't know what it is, it doesn't matter if it makes no sense to you. Just know that there is something that lives there, that lives in there for you. And if you're not sure what it is, maybe your hands are on a place of chronic physical pain. If you're not sure where to go, put your hands on a place where you have chronic physical pain. But I want you to just imagine as you breathe into the tissue that your hand is touching, I want you to imagine that your energy hand is seeping into the tissue, just like water seeps into dry earth. Your energy hands are seeping into that tissue, just like water seeps into a sponge or into dry earth. And I want you to imagine the shape, the size, the frequency of the energy that lives underneath where your hands went. Just imagine the shape, the size, the frequency of the energy that lives under there. And now what I'd like you to do is just imagine that, or not just imagine, but give it a sound. You're all on mute, so go ahead and make that sound for yourself. There's a frequency of that energy in there. Make the sound and slowly imagine that you're bringing that energy out in front of your body. You're holding it in your hands in a sacred way. You're holding that energy in the palms of your hands in a sacred way, and you're going to give that energy a gesture of expression, whatever that gesture might be. Don't worry if it makes no sense, if it's ridiculous or stupid or mean or unkind or whatever it might be, doesn't matter. Just let it have expression. Let that energy have an expressive gesture and an expressive sound. Now I'd like you to shake off your hands, just shake off your hands and arms, shake that energy off. And then go ahead and put your hands back on that same place that you were just touching into. And tune in again and see if it feels any different. It may or may not, just notice what's there now. And breathe. And when you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes. So I'd like to take a minute now to just open this up for a little bit of sharing. And I'd love to hear from those of you who are really maybe new to this work, give you a chance to just share or ask questions about what just happened for you. Is there anybody who'd like to share a little something about what just happened for you?
You can wave your hand or unmute yourself and ask a question.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, my hand went to my stomach, part of my stomach, maybe like right up, the hand above the whole palm of the hand was above the belly button, and a little to the sides. And it was very surprising that the sound, my hands, it was like like this, and the sound was almost like a vomit, like blah.
Mm.
So I thought that was very powerful because it was a purge sound.
Yeah, good. I love that you trusted the sound that wanted to come out and that you allowed yourself to make it and the movement that came out. Who is speaking? Because I can't quite see where you are.
Michelle. Oh, am I,
You're not on camera.
I'm not on camera. All right. I don't know how to get on camera.
That's okay, Michelle. Thank you for identifying yourself. And so when you went back to that same area and put your hands again, oh, there you are. Thank you. And put your hand there again. Did you notice any difference?
It was a little softer, I noticed. And I actually repeated the gesture a couple of times because intuitively I like the idea of the purge.
Yeah, great. I love that you listened to that and that you repeated the gesture. and that you loved the feeling intuitively of the purge, that you knew your body wanted and needed to do that, and you allowed that. That's beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. That's a great example. Anybody else have an experience, thank you, that you want to share about, or question that you want to ask?
Margaret had,
Well, the thing I noticed that was at the outset, I felt the energy with my hands, but the next time when I had the tone and it empowered those hands, that I felt nurtured. It was a very calming, nurturing feeling that I enjoyed.
Beautiful. I love that you noticed that it actually brought a feeling of nurturance. So many of us growing up lacked nurturance from our primary caregivers or one of our primary caregivers. And so to self-nurture is really a task for many of us as adults to have to learn how to find. And so often we look for that nurturance, not that we shouldn't, but we look for it through significant others who can never quite fulfill it to the extent that we might need it. So it's such a freeing thing when we can begin to learn how to self-nurture in a true way, in a way that our physiology actually can feel a shift for that. So thanks for bringing that point out, Margaret. Beautiful. What else? So I'm wondering, I want to talk about what we have coming up next, but I also would love to do maybe do a little demo. Is there anybody who feels like you would like to go a little bit further with what came up for you just now? Okay, Anne Louise, thank you. So can you take yourself off mute? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Here, I
Can you unmute yourself? There we go.
Yeah, I had to find my pointer.
Okay, great.
So
tell me, yeah.
My hand seemed to land on my forehead and then kind of my thigh, but then my other hand that was there moved to a point where I just had, or close to where I had surgery, and that was hurting. And then after you kind of wound down from that and then asked for feedback, then my throat was tight. I was aware that my throat was really tight.
Uh-huh.
But the original point in the abdomen released.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So it's interesting how the body will do some interesting compensating sometimes, like when one door opens, another will close to try to recreate homeostasis, because the system will go, oh, wait a minute, you're too open, let's tighten up over here, right? So it's a, yeah, what happened there when I said that?
I just flashed back to my experience when you had said before the release of the energy, or someone could sound like an orgasm, and we flashed back to the day my mother died, and I was taking the Rolfing, and it was number 7 or something when we were doing the throat, and so my mother passed, and then I had felt this release of energy from my throat. I could actually feel the energy coming out of my throat and up out of my mouth. And so, because children were seen and not heard, and I wasn't allowed to express.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm learning now to express myself. So it's to communicate.
So how does your throat feel right now, just having shared that with us?
Better.
So it feels better just from having talked about it. You gave yourself permission right now to just share, to express, and it feels better. So it loosened. Beautiful. Well, maybe that's all we needed to do right now.
Well, feeling a little more back, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's definitely what it was. Okay, now I'm feeling the shoulder.
So yeah, so what we're doing is we're tracking, right? So it started down there in your lower abdomen, that opened up, and then it tightened here, expressed that, talked about that. Now it's in my shoulder, right? So there's a name for that, and it's sometimes it's called the oh gosh, I'm totally blanking on it, like the wandering tension block, like it's like it'll jump over here and then it'll jump over there and it'll jump over there. And it's a way, again, the body's trying to recreate homeostasis of holding somewhere in order to feel safe. So it's okay that it's doing that because you're in the process of a natural unwinding. And we want to do it slowly and honorably, because that homeostasis, that, okay, no, don't let go all the way, tighten up over here, oh no, tighten up over there, is going to be like a molting process, right? When the snake sheds its skin, we don't want to rip the skin off the snake to go, hey, come on, get over it, let's get rid of that old skin now. If you rip it off, the snake will die, right? It'll bleed and die. So in a way, you could say what you're doing is molting, right? You're tracking the energy in a very beautiful, gentle way, and that's really healthy and healing. And so this is the way that energy work works. It's quite different from our fast pace, give me the pill, I want the quick fix, I want to be healed right now. But I think every stop along the way that you are naming is an important stop.
Yes,
So,
once we release and we heal one thing, then the next thing is safe to come up. So I choose to heal the source of the shoulder injury.
Yeah. And, we're all one thing. So there's one message, one story underlying all of that we'll just go take us deeper and deeper into. So it's a very fascinating what's going on for you. I'd love to spend more time, but I'm afraid we don't have too much more time for that right now. I think let's just take one more comment or question, and then I want to show you an opportunity that you can take if you'd like to learn more. So is there anybody else that would like to share or questions about any of this? Okay, so I want to go back to what's coming up next. So for those of you, so these are the steps that we just did, right? Tune into an area of chronic emotional pain. It could be chronic physical pain. So some of us are pretty disconnected from even from our emotions. Like we don't even know, we're not even clear what we feel or how we feel about certain things that happen. But you can be sure that wherever you have, if you've got knee problems, if you've got, frequent bronchitis, if you've got vision problems, if you've got, digestive problems, you can be sure there's an emotional component, and underneath that emotion, there's a sensation, a sensate neurological pathway where the energy is inhibited in some capacity. So then we're going to breathe and notice the shape, size, and frequency of the energy in that area. We're going to give it a gesture and a sound. Why a sound? Because sound has frequencies. And oftentimes those frequencies are held, locked, distorted, repressed from our physiology. When we allow those sounds to come out, then healing happens. Healing can begin to happen. And then we want to tune in again and see how or what might have shifted. Now that you can feel the energy, how do you catch your beliefs up to integrate the healing into your practical life? There is a way. We're starting a mentorship group based on the e-course, the Transpersonal Energy Healing ebook and e-course called An Introduction to Transpersonal Energy Healing for Personal Development and Exceptional Professionalism. This course starts soon, actually, and we offer it only once a year. It's going to come up in just a couple of weeks on September 14th. It happens on 6 Monday nights. And it's based on this book, the Introduction to Transpersonal Energy Healing for Personal Development and Exceptional Professionalism. And here are reasons, here are the things that we will cover in case you are interested in this. There are 7 concrete skills or reasons that may be of interest to you in this course. One is you're going to develop the power of your objective observer to bring you into the presence of your essential self, which is the key to being centered and grounded. You're going to realize the force of frequencies that create a healing environment, both within and around you, for yourself, your family members, or your clients if you have a practice. You're going to identify your primary functioning chakras that reveal your predominant communication style. You are predominantly either what we call a reason, will, or emotion communicator. So you can reduce arguments and enhance a trust and connection with other people. You can even just from these 3 words themselves, maybe guess what your predominant communication style might be. Are you a person who goes to your intellect to communicate? Are you a person who's just willful, like you just want to get it done, you got a job to do, you want to get it done? Or are you more of an emotional person? You're a feeler. It's more important to you how you feel and how other people feel when you're communicating with them rather than being right or wrong or analyzing a situation. You'll distinguish your energy expression style as push, pull, stop, or allow, so that you know how to actually shift the dynamics when a conflict happens out of one modality and into another, whatever might serve the situation at hand. You're going to learn the all systems go chakra warm-ups to open, charge, and clear your energy, to improve your health, clear your mind, and open your heart. And these exercises, you know, there's lots of chakra exercises out there, but these are really going to focus more on moving the subtle energy internally in the body. So we'll start on the gross physical level, and it'll get more and more and more subtle so that you will actually start to feel the sensate energy in your body so that you can feel it more deeply. You're going to acquire the energy vocabulary list, which is your gold nugget option to replace judgmental thoughts, words, and language. So we have a lot of judgmental language that we use about ourselves, in our self-criticism, and that we use toward others. And so having this energy vocabulary list is going to really help you to broaden that. Let me just try to give you an example of what I mean by that. When we talk about energy, oftentimes somebody might say something like, you know, I'm just red hot angry. Well, guess what their energy field looks like? They're red. You know, when 2 people are in love, we find ourselves saying these phrases like, oh, they have a pink glow around them. Or when you see a pregnant woman, you can see that pink glow of loving heart chakra energy that's just expanded around them. When somebody's got a gray cloud over their head, you're seeing that energy, you're perceiving that energy. We perceive energy in a subtle way, not in the same way we look at the 3-dimensional world. But the fact of the matter is you are all of you are seeing energy right now. It's just what you do with it, how you negate it to yourself when and as it comes into your own mind. So you're going to learn how to actually begin to perceive subtle energy and how to use the language of energy in a way that replaces judgments about yourself and other people, really opens us up in a beautiful new way. And then you're going to receive the secret power of transpersonal energy healing, why and how it works to repattern life force adaptations. So we just did just this very little slight introduction to that through that exercise that we just did in tuning in. So these are the skills: objective observer, create a healing environment, reason, will, or emotion, push, pull, stop, and allow, all systems go, warm up, energy vocabulary list, and repattern life force adaptations. And that's not everything that's in the course, but these are the main skills that you would be introduced to. Plus, if you sign up by tomorrow, we're going to add 2 free bonuses. One is going to be a movement training with Jan, which I'm so excited. I can't wait for myself to have the series of movements that she is incorporating through her tremendous movement training background with yoga and everything else that she rattled off that she's been trained in. She is putting together, compiling a set of energy exercises specifically for transpersonal energy healing, movement for healing. And it will also include, for the first 10 people that enroll before tomorrow or by tomorrow, a 30-minute transpersonal energy healing session with one of our super teaching team for the first 10 only. So this is a value of $124. If you enroll by tomorrow, the price is $299, not $29. This little guy moved on top of that. The price is $299. So wish I could tell you it was $29, but it's not. It's $299. It's still a great deal. So here's the link if you're interested in registering. Kimberly's going to put that in the chat for you so you can copy it there. If you decide to enroll, you will need to also purchase the Introduction to Transpersonal Energy Healing e-course book. You'll see it when you go to enroll here. You'll see it on the little arrow to purchase that as well if you decide you'd like to do both of those things. You can reach us. This is our website. You can also email us with questions there, but we can also take some more questions now about anything, about what happened just now, about the course, if you would like, before we close. So, yes, Mary Linda.
Hey, I'm wondering if you can share also some, in addition to that course, the other courses that are coming up and the monthly membership and some of the other ways that people can access this work?
Yeah, basically, if you just go to the website, you can check that out. But the transpersonal counseling course is sold out right now, and the membership course we'll talk about another time. So right now, this is what's the only thing that's really pretty much available at the moment. But it's a great opportunity because it's the introductory course. So for those of you who are new to energy healing, this is a great roadway in. And like I say, it only comes up once a year for us to do it live for you. You can do it as a self-study another time, but we'd love to be live with you. It's so much more dynamic when we're on Zoom live together. Any other questions? Well, I have a question for you all then. I would love to know more about, for those of you who, I would love to know how many of you are already working in the field of healing in some way. If maybe you could just put up a hand. I'd love to just see how many of you are already in that field yourselves. Just keep them up for a minute because I'd love to, and if you wouldn't mind to take yourselves off, put yourself back on camera so I can say hello and see all of you, that'd be great. Okay, so there's quite a few hands up. And how many of you are not in the field but are really super interested in perhaps exploring, learning, getting training in this? Okay. And how many of you are here for your own healing? How many of you just are really primarily here for your own healing? Great, thank you. And you can put it in the chat too, if you'd like. Okay. I would love to know if you would like to share some of what you are looking for in your own healing, if anybody would be open to sharing that. Yeah, Anne Louise, go ahead. And thank you for demonstrating for us before earlier.
Can you hear me now? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I really want to get to the source, the attitude, the misperception, the what I said to myself way back as a child that is the source of my disease. I want to get to the root, not to just to deal with symptoms.
Yeah, great. There is a source, and there's, energy psychology is a whole new field that's coming out right now. And so there are beliefs that are married with the dis-ease. And most of these beliefs do live on a subconscious level. They often track back to our childhood. Sometimes they can track back into past life stuff. Doesn't matter whether we believe in past lives or not. It's still imprinted in our physiology. So there is a way to access that through this work, and actually we teach people how to do that, as well as our practitioners are trained in how to help you do that, how to get to the source, the root cause of those beliefs that are married with the sensation that put us in those patterns. It's like we're all one thing, right? A geologist takes the rings of a tree, and he can look at the rings of a tree and he can see when the tree was struck by lightning, when the tree was in a drought, when the tree got a disease. It's all there in the rings. And the same is true in our chakra energy system. All of our history is there in us. We're in our Western culture, we go to the eye doctor, then we go to the dentist, then we go to the nose doctor, then we go to the ear doctor, then we go to the foot doctor, but we're all one thing. So so often we don't get healed because we're so compartmentalized that there's nobody working with us on the entirety of our system. So I love actually working in tandem with a team of medical professionals and with a client, because oftentimes transpersonal energy healing will be like the hub of the wheel. So it's not that we don't believe in Western medicine, we do, but it's not inclusive of the whole person. So when we work with the energy healing component, we're working with the psychology as well as the physiology, as well as the energy. So thank you for that. Who else? Anybody else want to share a little bit? Curious if there's something I can do to help my Hashimoto's in remission. Stress is a factor. Absolutely, there's things you can do to help your Hashimoto's. And and it's great that you're noticing that stress is a factor. So as we teach our physiology how to respond differently when the body attacks itself, right? What's it trying to do? It's actually trying to solve a problem. It's not really trying to hurt itself. It's actually trying to solve a problem. So we want to retrain it. I don't know, Kimberly, do you want to add anything more to that?
Yeah, I think you said it really well, Laura, that the body is always got a positive intention to help us be vibrantly healthy and experience pleasure and joy. And if we're having symptoms, that is the language of the body trying to communicate with us. We can learn to interpret the symptoms. Again, I believe that your symptoms are the language of the body. So when we learn how to listen and understand what our body is trying to do, we can work with it instead of against it. So you can work with an energy healer or a transpersonal energy healing therapy practitioner to help you learn the language of your own body, to tune into your own innate wisdom to get the answers that you need. I don't know the answer. Your doctors don't know the answer. They might have ideas for you, but one of the first things that I do with my clients is to help them tune in, become aware of their symptoms, and go deeper to understand what is the positive intention of the symptom and what is it trying to tell me? What information do I need to know and understand so that I can become vibrantly healthy? And so through this work, we have some really simple tools, not always easy to do the work, but there is some simple tools. There's a simple process that we can put in place to help us learn these skills. They're learned skills. We have to learn how to work with our system and our energy. We learn how to regulate our system. We have to be regulated for our immune system to work. So great simple skills that we can teach you to help improve your health in general, whether it's autoimmune issues or whether it's whatever else you're dealing with, that you're suffering with chronic pain, anything that you're dealing with. Your body is trying to give you information, and you can learn to work with it instead of against it.
I love how you said, Kimberly, what is the positive intention of this illness or this symptom, which is the complete antithesis of Western medicine. We go in there, just get rid of it. I just want to get rid of it. So many of my clients come to me, I just want to get rid of this. I just want to, tell me how to get rid of this. What we do with the energy work is we want to get in relationship with it. We want to get in a different relationship with the energy of the positive intention behind that symptom that we're having that is causing us pain or discomfort.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is your body has a natural wisdom. Your essential self has the prescription, has an innate capacity, and is actually trying to heal itself, but we're not paying attention. And so with the energy work, we pay attention to that. And the remarkable thing is phenomenal results occur. I'll give you one of my stories. Some of you have heard this before. I had a client, a 14-year-old boy, who was nonstop vomiting for 6 weeks by the time his parents brought him to me. And we're talking every day, 5 or 6 times a day. Now you can imagine the parents were really beside themselves. They had taken him to every doctor they could think of. He'd already been in the hospital from dehydration, and nothing, he was not, they tested him for allergies, they tested him for this, for that. The poor kid had been through everything. In about 8 sessions, we completely stopped the vomiting of the transpersonal energy healing work. So, because we tracked it into what was his body actually trying to do. His body, when we tracked what his body was trying to do, his body was trying to release. And he was so afraid to release the stress and the tension. He was so afraid of what his body was trying to do that it was like going into a seizure, that his body would force him to release through vomiting. When we started to let him to work, when I started to work with him to let his body allow itself to have the release it was trying to make without the vomiting, he was terrified, but he started to do it. And he started to have all kinds of vibration and sensations happen. And he started laughing. He started laughing. Now, it took a while for his brain to catch up. Like, for a minute, I thought we were going to do it in 1 session, but it actually took about 6 to 8 sessions before it completely stopped. So these are the kinds of things that energy healing can address, can work with, that, and there are so many stories like that Kimberly has, I have, that all of these healers have, that where you go to Western medical doctors, not everything is within the scope of practice of energy healing, but so many things are. And especially some of those things where doctors say, oh, there's nothing can be done. No, what they really mean is there's nothing that I know how to do for you. Go see an energy healer. But in actuality, there's a lot of science behind energy healer. We're not these woo-woos. It's based in science. It's based in medicine. We have a scope of practice, and we want to teach you the pragmatic usefulness of it, because it's so often the underlying root cause, especially of chronic problems. Mm-hmm. Yes, the boy was vomiting involuntarily. He did not want to do this. He was not forcing himself to regurgitate. He hated that he was doing it. It was extremely uncomfortable for him. And he was very relieved and happy to have that stop. And so many stories like this. Another boy that had migraines on a regular basis. Migraines are so often tied into the energy. Pregnancy, women who, are having difficulty, I should say couples, because it's not always just the woman, having difficulty getting pregnant, so much about the energy. And then they do all these in vitro fertilization, spending tens of thousands of dollars going through horrific pain, when energy healing work is so effective at helping women get pregnant. So there's so many physiological components to this work that can be really powerfully healing. So I love that you all came to this to learn about this modality, to maybe see the options for yourself. I hope that you will. We're going to do a closing in just a minute here, but if you have questions about the course, I'm happy to stay on for a few minutes after we do our official closing to answer questions about the upcoming mentorship group. But thank you all so much for being here, for allowing us to share with you about the potency of this work. Please stay connected with us. Please feel free to ask us any questions that you might have. Please check out our website for all of what we do have to offer, tehtherapy.com. And let's do a closing, centering transitional meditation to end. And then, as I say, we'll be on for about another 10 minutes to take any questions you might have about the work itself or the course coming up. Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes. Take a couple deep breaths. And let yourself center in to what happened here. Just forget everybody and everything else for a minute now. Come into you. Feel yourself relaxing deeply into your essential self. Your essential self is connected to the seat of your soul, which actually has a place deep, deep within your heart center. If it helps, you can place your hands over your heart chakra, over your heart center. Let yourself deeply relax into yourself. You are safe now to feel your full aliveness, to begin the journey of entering the next step of your full aliveness. These concepts could be a turning point in your own life. And when you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes. Thank you, everybody, so much for being here with us today. Such a pleasure and an honor to meet you, especially those of you who are interested in this work. I'm always touched by those of you who are drawn to this topic. I hope I get to see you all again. Please stay connected with us and feel free to leave if you need to go or our time is up. But if you have questions about the course or anything else that we have to offer, feel free to chat with us for a few minutes. Many blessings to everybody. Okay, so for those of you who are still here, questions or comments, anything lingering?
I have a question about this introductory course, Laura, because as you know, I've taken some of the courses and quite a few introductions, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm still working through all these different, issues and the process of healing and all these things. So I'm interested in taking a course, but I'm not sure if this is the right one. I've already done the whole characterology and
Yeah.
so just wanted to hear from you.
Yeah, one that you would have taken because it's based on a book that I did not have complete back then when you were with us. Not to say that some of it wouldn't be repetitive. It might for you, but as a, so it would be an option for you to take this class. And if you take a look at the page, if you click on the link, take a look at the page and you'll read the description of the course, and that might help you also to answer for yourself whether or not you'd like to do this. And also the characterology course that you took has evolved tremendously since then. Finished teaching that one, but it'll come around again next year. Yeah, Lynn.
I just wanted to maybe speak to that a bit. I've been taking your courses for a number of years and continue to take them because they do evolve. Not only does the course evolve, but I change and evolve. And so each time I take it, I find another layer. So I don't know if that helps, but I offer that.
Great. Thank you, Lynn. Any other questions? I'd love to know a little bit more about some of you all, Magnus and Pauline and Judy and Carol and Leah and Nancy, if you'd like to share, Charlie, what brings you here and what your interest is in this. Would any of you like to share?
I will, just give me 1 second though.
Okay, great.
I just want to be on camera when I share, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Magnus.
Anybody else maybe in the meantime while he's getting himself on camera?
I'll add, Jan Chamberlain is someone I admire and have worked with for years and years and years. And it's whatever she says, I really am interested in. She's on an amazing path of healing and wholeness. And it's her great ambition and desire to be able to help others. So I've appreciated the learning tonight. I began 22 years ago with Rapid Eye, and then I'm into Ready for Wholeness right now and cranial sacrum and
Great.
Yeah, doula. These are all things that are enriching. So thank you.
Oh, that's great. It's beautiful work you're doing, Margaret. Thank you for sharing that, and I hope we get to see more of you. Good. Anybody else want to share a little bit about yourself and what brings you?
Charlie here. Well, I've been doing a lot of this work for years, not with you all, but with other people. And I still feel like I'm dealing with the self-saboteur. So I'm looking around to see what my options are about what I'm gonna do next.
Well, I'm glad you're exploring that. That's great. And I think, you'll know, if you try this out, you'll know whether or not it provides that missing piece for you. It very often does with energy healing work. What are some of the other modalities that you've been dabbling in or training in?
Well, I've done a lot of breath work. I've studied breath work and done a lot of work with breath workers and even trained to become one, but I never did. And that's fundamentally it. I do samyama too. I do that a lot. I think samyama is a really good practice. And that's helped me a lot over the years. And meditation.
Beautiful.
I follow Thich Nhat Hanh a lot.
Beautiful. This might provide a piece that you haven't had then, because it goes a lot into the energy psychology of the work, which addresses that self-sabotage component. So does our course, the Dancing with Defenses, really goes into that as well. And that you can take as a self-study if you'd like, but I would say that if you're going to explore that, to start with our class that's coming up, the Introduction to Transpersonal Energy Healing Mentorship course that's coming up, that the link for that is in the chat. And you might want to take a look at it and see if that speaks to you. We'd love to have you, Charlie, because I think that will address that self-saboteur that you're talking about. We actually will go quite a bit into that. So thanks for sharing that. Thank you.
If I could just add that one of the ways that I like to think of it is that those practices that you mentioned, Charlie, are really great for management, dealing with kind of managing the overwhelm, managing your mind and the mind chatter. And there's a big difference though between management and resolution of stuck energy or a stuck pattern. And this process really helps us resolve old patterns, not just manage feeling overwhelmed or stuck.
I agree.
Hope that helps.
Why deal with the symptoms? Go to the root.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody else want to share a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I guess I'm back now. So, hello?
Yeah,
Hi.
we got you.
Ooh, let me put my mic. The camera's not working. There we go.
There we go. Hi.
Hello. My name is Magnus. Dolores first brought me here, so sorry I had to run, so I'm a little bit of it.
I'm sorry, what brought you
It's
here?
really up, so I'm trying to control. Dolores Birch, so I think she's still on here.
Wonderful.
Oh, my energy's high up there. Nope, she's not on here anymore. I don't think she's here. So Dolores, she actually brought me here, and she's the reason why I am here. I actually have I'm an inept. I have a lot of energy abilities around me. I've grown up with them for quite some time. I've never kept them to myself, and on the lower spectrum of like just being an empath and being able to understand and feel all those things. And then I've seen the effect that I've had unintentionally doing it with shifting people without them knowing. If they were like bad, like if they were like really hectic and chaotic, I would do it. But I was like when I was younger, and then I didn't like it growing up because then I didn't have control over it. So I was always feeling everything, even before I could see what was coming around the corner. I could feel it, shift it, and move it before the presence even came. So if I was with somebody and I would feel something that would come, I would really have to clear our energy and then like move them out the way. And they're like, why are we moving? I'm like, just wait for a second. And it would never make any sense. And then the person would finally come and they're like, oh my gosh, that person was like, I'm like, exactly. That's what I was cleansing so that they can come through. They're like, you can feel that? I was like, I have no idea why I can. I would never know. And recently, it's activated even more this last year. I went up to Mount Shasta, which is like the root chakra of like the whole world. So I didn't know that when I went there though. And it activated me. And it activated a lot of my abilities even on hyperdrive. And so recently I've been doing a lot more that I didn't even think I could do. I didn't do Reiki healing, but I've been able to help and channel my friends if they were going through something and I was in another place. If I had their energy, like she had a crystal or something like that, like the rose quartz, I could look at it since it had her energy, and I would focus in on her energy. If she was feeling like she'd be somewhere clear across the place, I'd focus in on the energy, and I would cleanse that energy, and it would dissipate. She's like, "Wow, I feel better." She's like, "Have you ever done that before?" I'm like, "No, I just knew I could do it, so I did it."
Magnus, what's your work now? What do you do?
I'm a free spirit that's now in transition, and I asked for this.
Well,
I asked for this because I wanted to take you guys as mentoring, and I didn't know anything about it.
The reason that I asked you is because it would sure be nice if you were actually being paid for this, to be learning how to do this professionally, because you can. I mean, with all this stuff all the energies that you're so sensitive to, that you're playing around with, just imagine if you actually had some techniques behind it that were grounded and practical, and you're flying intuitively, which is terrific. I mean, look at already what you're doing just intuitively. So I mean, I'd love to see you harness this. You could be making a living doing this work.
Some people told me that, but then I think I would lose the fun. Someone's
Great time, Magnus, and I'm making a
as
living.
eclectic as you guys. I don't know.
Ah,
I don't know. I don't.
I'm having a great time making. I'm still having a good time.
So my biggest question is this: what are you guys? Here's my biggest question. So my biggest question is what you guys are offering. Is that the mentorship to get certified, or is that not?
It's one of the courses that are required for our certification. Our certification incorporates quite a few courses. It takes about, if you really put your full focus on it, would probably take you a little bit more than a year to do the full certification training. What you can do is take a look at the website, really read it carefully, and that will tell you, we have 3 levels of certification courses required in our training. The mentorship is the one that's coming up right away, the mentorship course. But the foundations, the level 1 of our certification training, you can take anytime and it's all self-study. But the mentorship course is part of our level 2, but you can still take it now, even without having taken anything else so far. And that would be one of our certification requirements. So take a look at it. And if you have questions, you can email us at support@TEH-Therapy, and Emily will be happy to help you. And see what
was the support? Can you say that one more time? Because that's literally why I'm here. Was because I was wagering if I should when I could take that.
Yeah, well, it's
so
coming
that's
up.
literally
Your timing is good. So if you go to the, can you see in the chat where the link is to the course? It says the mentorship course in the chat. If you open the chat, you'll see the link there. And so I would suggest that you click on that link when you have a chance. And then also,
Got it.
if you have any questions, you'll see how to, contact us on the website there too. So thank you, Magnus. Anybody else, any last minute questions before we close? Okay. Well, thank you all for staying on board to hang out with us. And I really am excited to be with you. If this speaks to you, it calls to you, we really want to meet you and see you again. And feel free to email us if you have any questions. We'll be in touch. All right, take care, everybody. Thank you. So lovely to see you and meet you all. Bye.